Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Grumpy Dads. We've had a bit of a break, but we are back. Obviously, I had the Grumpy Gits last week, but we're back with a proper Grumpy Dads this week. Please, before we go on, can you hit like, hit subscribe, and make sure you ring the bell so that you know when we've got new content coming out. We've got loads of good stuff lined up to go. Chris, how are you this week, my man?
Some holidays kicking my ass. It's such hard work. It just doesn't seem to end. I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I'm fine. I'm coping.
I like that. Yeah, it's kicking my ass. Oh, but I'm good. Yeah, it's great. This week we have a fantastic guest, and I'm really excited by this. Can we welcome, please, Ashley Blaker?
Hello. Thank you very much.
How are you, my man?
I'm good. I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic. We're going to talk a bit more about what Ashley does shortly, but basically at the moment he's doing a radio show on Radio 4, which is also available on BBC Sounds, called 6.5 Children, which is about raising kids with extra needs and autism and so forth. Fantastic show. Do check it out. We'll put the link in the description. But before we get on to that, I'm going to hand over to Chris.
Yeah, I am introducing something new this week. I felt like Icebreaker Antics, or Amazon Antics as we originally called it, has got a bit old. So I've changed the format slightly, and instead of Amazon items and guessing the product based on the reviews, it's actually going to be movies, and you've got to guess the movie based on 1-star reviews off IMDb. We'll do our first review. I really hated this movie. 1 out of 10 for me, honestly. I would rather watch Spider-Man 3, and I hate that movie.
Oh, okay, vague.
It's going to be 3 reviews out.
It'd be brilliant if that was a review of Spider-Man 2, but it was written before Spider-Man 3 was made. There's been so many different Spider-Men. I get confused by which iteration they mean. I assume they mean this is the I was going to say the original, but the first set of films, and it's that third one with Venom, I think.
Yeah, which was.
They want to check which Spider. That was the one he took. Anyway, that's not the film we're even talking about, is it?
No,
we're talking about what was the. Well, it could be any. I mean, that could be any. It could be anything. So somebody who's gone on IMDb that I hated this film so much it was worse than Spider-Man.
You know what?
That's so vague. That could be any film ever.
It really could. I think there's a superhero link there. I'm wondering if it's anything to do with DC. And I'm thinking it could be something like Batman versus Superman or the Justice League, because I hate Zack Snyder. If they're just going off about Zack Snyder, I'm with them. He ruins everything, in my opinion. I've never enjoyed a film he's made.
Right, so what movies are we choosing?
I'm going Justice League.
Justice League is not correct. Oh. Ashley, what are you going for?
I mean, God knows. Is he? Let me ask then, just as a clue. Is Duncan in the right territory then?
Well, here's the first one. You're going to get 3 reviews for this movie. So
is it a superhero film?
It is a superhero movie.
Okay,
that's the reason why I picked it.
So I'll say Batman versus Superman.
It is not correct. Review 2. Just like in the movie, it fails to bond with the audience. The fake American accent, laughable.
Oh, someone does a fake American accent.
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange is a good guess, but it's not right.
Yeah, it
Cumberbatch American accent sucks.
Well, also, yeah, but that's quite good. I like that film. I saw that.
I did.
So I'm just now thinking of a joke. You know what? You distracted me with that talk of Zack Snyder and whatever. And I was wondering if anyone has ever done a joke. I sometimes think of jokes. Now I'll go on Twitter to I'll put it into search. It's a good way to see if it's like what I call a civilian joke that someone ever thought of it. But I wondered if anyone had ever. This is my Jewish thinking here. If anyone had ever paid Zack Snyder to do a circumcision for them, so they can say, "Oh yeah, watch the video. It's the Zack Snyder cut." Yeah, there you go. Bit long-winded, but I think it's wondering if anyone has thought of that joke.
If Zack Snyder did a circumcision video, it would have it would all be peeved out of all. They'd all be oiled up. It would be awful. Yeah.
But just to be able to say it's a Zack Snyder cut. Anyway, God, I don't know. A bad American accent, and it's a superhero film. Oh God, I'm. You know what? I've seen a lot of these films, and then I don't watch them again. I just see them in the cinema, and they wash over me, and then I don't watch them again. I need one of my children to help me here because they've seen them. These autistic boys who have watched these things 101 times again and again and again on Disney Plus. No, I can't even guess. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We'll move on to the third one. Well, Tom was bound to make a bad movie at some point.
Oh, it's Homecoming or Spider-Man Homecoming.
Wow, I didn't even think of that. No, it's not correct.
Because he's English, isn't he?
Yes, he is, but I didn't even think of that.
It's not Tom Holland we're talking about. It's a different Tom.
It's a different Tom.
Oh, Tom Hardy. Oh.
Is it Batman, the third Batman?
Dark Knight
the third Batman, the one with Bane. Is that what we're talking about?
No, it's not. Oh my God!
Because I like his accent in that as well. It's good.
It is very, very good.
Yeah.
I don't think that was American though, was it?
No, I don't know.
No, he was very.
Yeah.
In fact, he almost went posh, but with the I don't think
It was a strange accent, but I will tell you, it is Venom.
Okay, well,
it's Venom.
One of my children's very excited because all he's talking about at the moment, almost literally, actually, the only thing he talks about is this Venom film. He's 11, and he wants me to take him to this 15. Will I be able to take him to this 15 and what have you? This new Venom movie that's coming out.
Yeah, I've seen the trailers for that. Yeah. We'll move on to the second movie. Why would anybody sign up to make a loose, immoral biopic and then glamorize it?
Oh, I'm gonna have to say Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's not correct.
Oh.
So it's a loose. So Rocket Man, then I'll say.
It's not correct. These are good guesses, though. The glorification of a narcissistic sociopath.
I think that is Rocket Man. Are you sure?
Somebody might have made the comment for Rocket Man, but no, it's not the movie that I saw it on.
Have they made Trump the movie yet? Because that would
no, not yet. Not unless he funds it himself.
I'm sure he's working on it. Yeah. It would be the best movie ever. I mean, ever.
It's not Schindler's List, is it?
No, it's not Schindler's List.
The most inappropriate. I don't know. God, I really have no idea. I have absolutely no idea.
Duncan, have you had a guess for this one?
I'm going to say, I can't remember what the actual film is called, but it was the Zac Efron Ted Bundy movie.
No, I'm afraid not. No, it's a good guess. Big fan of Scorsese, but this was an awful story to work with.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. Well done. That's right. Move on to our third movie. This is a good one.
Can I say, I was running a business show with some other guys. We had Richard Branson and Alan Sugar both speaking at the event, and we had him lined up as the original Jordan Beaufort, the real Jordan Beaufort, lined up to be a speaker at it. And went and saw The Wolf of Wall Street, knowing he was supposed to be coming to this thing, and it was just kind of, we've got our work cut out here, haven't we?
Okay, we'll move on to a third movie. Totally unrealistic. I can't stand unrealistic films. With his injuries, he should have been dead in seconds.
So it's probably a biopic of a sportsman or someone who one of those
I will say, because it's the third movie, it's the last one. It's not a biopic.
Okay,
I hope not. Anyway,
well, I'm going to say then I'm going to say Revenge of the Sith because Anakin Skywalker.
I thought he had it. I thought he had it. It's not right.
So it's close. Okay. Because when he, at the end of that film, when he's kind of lost his arms, lost his legs, and on fire. And I know he's got the Force with him, but he's hobbling, hobbling, sliding up the beach.
It's a really good guess. I will give you that. and I thought you had it when you said at the start. Duncan, what is your guess? What movie has there been a really, really bad injuries and should have been dead in seconds?
Hobbs and Shaw, Fast Furious Shaw.
No, unfortunately not. No, the guy gets shot hundreds of times. It is grotesque and disgusting.
Is it The Sixth Sense? And then like the thing in the final thing this is somebody who hadn't actually stayed, who hated the film so much that he hadn't stayed to the end. He went, well, Mark Wahlberg, he like shot him. He must have died. How didn't he die?
Ashley has got one of those faces where you look at him and he starts to answer and you think he's got this. And he hasn't.
And I haven't. I never do.
I'm thinking he's going to be right on the money here. It never happens. Duncan, what's your guess? The guy gets shot hundreds of times. It is grotesque and disgusting.
I'm going to say Crank.
Oh, no, it's not correct. Rip-off of Dirty Harry, except he's bulletproof.
If this is Robocop, I'm going to be pissed off.
I was going to say, I'm thinking T2. They keep shooting him and he's liquid mercury or something. Why isn't he dying? It's so unrealistic.
Oh, Duncan said it, so it's Robocop.
It is Robocop.
It is Robocop. It's Robocop. There was only 3 1-star reviews in something like 40,000 votes. I'm not even sure they watched the right movie. It's totally unrealistic.
Robocop, and the biggest issue you've got is how many times he was shot. You missed the point.
But then, did you see? Are either of you? I don't know if either of you are fans of wrestling. Duncan looks like he could be a fan of wrestling.
A guy we work with, Adam Pearson, is a huge fan of wrestling.
Oh yeah, no, I know Adam. Yeah. We sometimes message us on Twitter. I know he's a fan of wrestling. No, so WCW, which is the organization that doesn't exist anymore, they paid a huge amount of money, believe it or not, to have RoboCop, but like the real RoboCop as a performer. And that's when it becomes unrealistic. You go, well, it's a man and it's not real, is it? It just didn't work. But I mean, I liked RoboCop at the time. I was a kid and I liked it at the time. Do either of you remember a really bad American show, which I think lasted 1 series, but they showed it here. It mainly even lasted like 6 episodes, called Automan.
Yes,
man, no.
Because he looked,
sounds familiar.
He kind of looked. It was a kind of cross between like RoboCop and Tron.
All I had to say is he drove a Lamborghini Countach.
Yeah, so he drove.
Outline.
It could take corners like that, and it was like that was the kind of unreal.
There was that, and the show at the same time called Manimal.
Manimal. I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, they were both produced by the same guy. Actually.
They both came out about the same.
Yeah, they were terrible. They exactly Manimal. Yeah, with a kind of cop who can turn into different animals. Again, a bit unrealistic. There you go.
I bet the same guy on IMBD actually said that as well. It's not realistic. I hate unrealistic things. Why'd you go to watch a fictional movie if you hate unrealistic things? Did you think it was a biopic? Jesus, right, okay.
Well, my dad though, I was going to say my dad was, I mean, he's still alive, but I mean, it was in the sense of when I was growing up, he was terrible at this kind of thing. He would ruin films in that way of just going, well, that couldn't happen. Like, I particularly remember watching The Spy Who Loved Me, right? And, in The Spy Who Loved Me, that brilliant bit of the pyramids when Jaws kills Julius Sawala's father. Basically runs into a room. You know the bit I'm talking about?
Yeah.
But he runs into a room, Mr. Sawala, and I think what's his name? Fekesh, I think it's the character. And he's bolted the doors together, and Richard Keel, Jaws, bites through it. And my dad's sitting there just going, well, that couldn't happen. Because even if you had metal teeth, your jaws would never be powerful enough to do that. And you're thinking, like, spoiled, that ruin a film.
It kind of does. But I'm like that with the Fast and Furious movies, though. That wouldn't happen. That definitely wouldn't happen. They couldn't jump from one building to the other in that car and stop in time. And I get told to shut up by my son and my wife.
I think that's when you know you're a dad. That is officially when you're a dad. When you're doing that.
It is.
It's when you get the Trekkies, isn't it? The ones who are really hardcore, and it's like, oh, well, there's actually an anomaly in that because the actual physiological photon stuff, it doesn't happen that way, and it wouldn't actually propel in that way. It's like, oh, shut up and just enjoy the damn film.
Yeah, what's weird is I never made the same comments when I was watching Bottom Guest House Paradiso, which is strange. Maybe it's just the fan that you are, depending on the mood. Yeah, we've got to move on to our next phase of Icebreaker Antics, which is crazy questions, random questions. You don't have to name them, but think of the person who annoyed you the most at work. Tell us why they annoyed you.
I don't know. I mean, this is the thing with being a comedian now. Is I do work with other people sometimes, but I everyone annoys me. But that's probably why I do what I do. Because I used to work at the BBC for some years as a producer and as a writer and what have you. And yeah, oh God, so many people annoy me. I'll tell you the people that annoy me the most, and I think I suppose still do to some regard, are commissioning editors, are the people who you try and just because you're trying to sell them ideas. And I always think, you know how most people's jobs, I don't know what your day jobs are, but most people's jobs are named after the thing they do the most. You know, like I don't know, bakers, like the thing they do is baking bread, and you know they might bake other stuff or do other stuff, whatever. Well, like a milkman delivers milk. He might deliver orange or whatever, but the main thing is milk. Yeah. So that, you know, that's it. Now, commissioning editors, 1% of what they do, 5% of what they do is commissioning. I always think they should be called rejectors, basically. And then there should be someone whose job title is chief rejector of comedy at the BBC, because 95% of what they're doing is rejecting. And the excuses I have heard over the years, and I could tell you that I could take up a whole podcast, but the best one I ever heard, this was some years ago. He doesn't work there anymore, but a guy who worked at Channel 4. It's when I was working at Graham Northam's company. I was head of development there, and we pitched a comedy show to this guy at Channel 4. And I finished my pitch, and he just sat there, shook his head, and went, "Yeah, it's too funny." I just go, I don't know what to say. It's like,
you were pitching a comedy, though, wasn't it?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't
the
like
unexpected season of Silent Witness.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like turning, I don't like this porn film. It's too erotic. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say.
That's amazing. I'm not sure what he's doing in a job, because if he's rejecting a comedy,
That answers a lot of questions about some of the comedy that comes from Channel 4.
I know. That was quite a while ago. But yeah, we had the other one I've heard a lot. I used to hear a lot of times. I mean, this is why I stopped doing that job as development and just went to comedy because it's great. Going to stand-up comedy because it's great. You can just you can think of something funny, you can just go on stage and say it. But I still now, obviously, am pitching shows as a performer myself. But I remember there was a time, and I heard this several times from different people, that I pitched shows to people at the BBC, and they would go, "You know what? The trouble with this show is it would be perfect for BBC 1.5." I don't know what. And I heard it so many times for shows that I thought were really good. I kind of thought, well, you should launch a channel called BBC 1.5 then. Like, it's just such a lame excuse. I'll tell you, this is, well, no, that's BBC 1+2. It's 1 after. I know what they mean by it. I do know what they mean. I know what they mean by it, but it's still flipping stupid. This is so funny. This should actually be the title of an autobiography. Or biography or autobiography. It's such a great line. We made a show when I was at we made this pilot. The BBC had paid, probably best part of £200,000 for a pilot that we made. And we went to have a meeting about it. We delivered the show, and about 2 weeks later, we're going, this is what you do. You make the show, you deliver it, they watch it, Anyway, so we go to a meeting, and we walk into a room to see the then like head of BBC One and head of entertainment, the two women who were basically most involved with commissioning the show, on their knees in front of the video. That's how the day was. They were actually in front of them with a tape in their hand, and one looked over their shoulder to the other and went to the other, "Too late, they're here." And I always thought that would be such a great name for a book. "Too late, they're here." But brilliant. So basically, what had happened, if you haven't kind of worked out what's going on here, they had spent like best part of £200,000 or whatever it was, and then waited until like the meeting to actually watch the thing, realized that we'd arrived to it, and went, "Too late, they're here." And then what transpired was they had no idea what we were talking about.
Duncan, we need your answer.
For me, to be honest, it's not a specific person, it's a type of person you get in every office. And if there's been one in every office I've ever been in, it's the person who just has to just nudge one up on you, no matter what you've done. So, you went to Italy for my honeymoon, come back from the honeymoon. Oh, we did Italy. We stayed in Florence. It was lovely. And we got to go and see, the Tower of Pisa as well. We went out to there and we did. Oh, did you go to Tuscany? No, we didn't get time. Oh, you missed out. Oh, it's this sort of subtle belittlement, no matter what you've done. I just scored a £20,000 job. They've signed up. We've done it. Made it. I'm so proud. Oh, yeah, you're so good, man. I felt the same way when I did the £25,000 one. And you just want to stab him in the eyes. It's just like, shut up. They've always got to just, it's that type of person. The one-upper. I hate it.
It's the brown noser for me, which I think I've worked with too, and they're so obvious with what they do. It's like the boss walks in. Oh, would you like a cup of tea? Oh, I've got some biscuits or something. And then I've always been the type that works, and I let my work speak for me. And yet the brown noser, who's really shit at his job, decides to try and work his way up by just being nice to the boss and doing it when he's around. It's making me frustrated talking about it, because I remember the two wankers that were the ones that did it. But
thanks so much again for joining us, actually. It's a real privilege for us, because I'm becoming I didn't know I was a fan of your work until I stumbled across you through.
That's great. That's what you want. New.
But it was like, I'm a fan of your work from, like you say, you're a writer on Little Britain and a producer on Little Britain, and that was. I love that show. I remember back in Australia stumbling across it with some friends, and we became, it was like a religious thing. Every week we had to make sure. And here I am now talking to one of the guys who's behind it. How was that experience for you, just getting into that sort of realm of things?
Amazing. I mean, I always wanted to work in comedy, and I got very lucky. Again, right place, right times, weird things. I was unemployed, actually, and somebody, as a former teacher from school, said to me, "Why don't you?" We were having a drink one night, and I said, "I don't know what to do with my life. I've got a job. I don't even know what I want to do." And he said, "Have you heard of the Media Guardian?" I said, "No, what is that?" He said, "Oh, it's in the Guardian newspapers. They have jobs on a Monday in media. Maybe you'll find something." This was a Thursday night. 4 days later, I bought the Guardian. First time in my life. There was an advert. "Do you have funny bones? The BBC needs trainee comedy producers." And applied and got this job, and then one of the first things you had to develop new shows and stuff, and then the first thing I was developing was Little Britain, and Matt was an old friend of mine, and we bumped into each other, and I said, well, actually, funnily enough, in his autobiography, he's got a whole account of this meeting where we bumped into each other in Soho. And said, I've got this new job. Why don't we do something? And but right place, right time. There are just things that happen sometimes. He says this meeting changed his life. It's sometimes you just need certain things to happen, and great memories. But very different to then what I'm doing now, which is as a performer, actually, then kind of stepping out from behind the scenes and doing stuff myself. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to talk about your radio show because for me, I mean, the way I heard about it is because you're doing this show 6.5 kids or 6.5 children.
6.5, yeah.
6.5, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about what that show is for you?
So I mean, basically, I wanted to. Well, I'll tell you very briefly the genesis of it is that when I did the first and so far only time I've performed at the Edinburgh Festival, I did a show there in 2018. That was fine and sold out its run and did all right. And I mentioned in the shows, it was called Ashley Blake at Observant Jew, and I mentioned in the shows I had 6 children, very in passing, really in passing. And I think like I was, there are things that you do in your life that you just kind of take for granted. And also I live in a world where I know a lot of people with lots of children. I know many people who've got more children, a lot more children. And it never seems that particularly amazing to me. And I was doing the show in Edinburgh, and I found every day when I would mention just in passing that I had 6 children, it would get these gasps from the audience. And people go, wow, 6? Did I hear that right? And it just struck me like, oh, wow, that interests people in a way that I hadn't ever kind of thought. Something I took for granted people were interested in. So I resolved my next show would be about having a large family. And I was meant to do a show called Ashley Blake of 6.5 Children at the Edinburgh Festival last year. I actually didn't ever write a word of it because I could tell by late February already, this ain't going to happen. But we did pitch it to the BBC. They bought it and as a 4-part series. And actually, as I started thinking about it, what I realized was actually, I touched early on and the first episode's about having a large family. But actually, the things that are more interesting are other aspects, and say particularly the special needs. And I think that's the areas that I think as we carry on, I found is particularly of interest. It's certainly the most relatable because obviously the average in this family, the average size family in the UK now, it's decreased. Like, there was a show on the BBC 20 odd years ago called 2.4 Children. Now the average family is like 1.8. I mean, the number of children people have has gone down. I suppose with climate change, maybe in carbon footprint, maybe that's a good thing. But I don't know. But that was the only criticism I ever got from this show. I had occasional tweets from angry people going, "You disgust me. We're trying to, climate change, and you're adding all these problems." But anyway, whatever. What can I do? But can't do anything about it now. Well, I suppose I could, but I'd be put in prison if I did that. So So basically, I as things went on, I thought this was an interesting, relatable side actually, because I was putting something together today, and I had to look this up. According to MenCap, there are 318,000 children with special needs under the age of 18. So it's a large number of people, large number of adult parents. So that means if each of those kids had 2 parents, that's 636,000 parents, and it's a lot of people. And and so that's our. And then also there are other interesting aspects to our life. We've got two boys who have been diagnosed as autistic. We have 2 other boys who are I joke in the show they have the surname Blaker, which kind of means the same thing. And then we also have a daughter with Down syndrome who's adopted. So there's a whole episode which tells the story of her adoption. And so there were just kind of different facets of family life. And then there's one whole episode about lockdown, because obviously that was like a whole parenting thing that people can relate to, obviously. Parenting during lockdown, both from a special needs perspective, but from having a large family, all the perspective, one child would be difficult enough. So, lots to
What I love listening to the show was that you've brought in this, and special educational needs and special needs in general get so heavy and so weighed down. And what I loved was there's just such a joy in listening to your show. I especially love listening to you talk about the stories of just the awkward situations you get put in. And if you tell your police story, it's just brilliant when you got pulled over.
Yes, yeah. No, well, the police, yeah. So, well, I don't want to spoil it too much. Listeners can, viewers rather can go and listen. But yeah, you do get these hairy situations. That was a true story about being pulled over by the police, and you want your kids to shut up, and they're in the back just asking terribly inappropriate questions and getting out their phones and trying to film it, and there lots of opportunity for laughing with rather than laughing at. Stuff that I've had a lot of emails via my website from people telling me their stories. It's an amazing world of that we parents live in, and I think there's not enough humor. Sometimes I'm working on a book at the moment called "If I Didn't Laugh, I'd Cry," and I think that's the thing. We have a hard time. A lot of parents who don't have children with special needs or with extra needs and what have you might not appreciate. I say in episode 3, I said at the start, if you don't have children with special needs, you probably only speak to how much contact do you have with your children's school? Like twice a year you go in for parents evening. We're having constant phone calls, constant meetings, and I talk a lot about all the hundreds of different kinds of meetings we have. It's just life seems to be endless meetings. Yeah, these are stuff that it's nice for other parents in similar situations to relate to, but it's also nice for parents who aren't in that situation to hear and understand.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's just it. It was the little subtleties you brought into it. And I won't give anything away because, please, if you haven't done so already, the link will be in the description. Go and check out the show. It's brilliant. But I love the idea that what kind of meeting it is by what's on the table.
The tissues or the biscuits, yeah. Exactly. If it's the biscuits, it's a good one. If it's tissues, it's a bad one. You go in, and I see the tissues and just leave. Just don't even bother. I just remembered I parked in a residence bay and then just don't come back. But so I really wanted it to be to kind of tell parents what other people what our lives are like. So episode 3 is the structure of episode 3, which is the one it's called The Special Ones, these are the 5 things that parents with special needs children would like you to know about us and our children.
Yeah.
And I was really worried when I was writing it that I would get emails or criticism on social media, because everything does these days, and people going, well, I've got a autistic son, I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with point 3 at all, or I'd add this or I'd add that. And I didn't get that at all, and I was so gratified by that. And it's amazing, really. It's it's been really nice. I've not had that actually. I was really surprised by that. But
we've said many times, I think when you're in this situation where you are raising these kids who have got these extra needs, and I think the idea of if I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying kind of thing really is absolutely, because I think you develop a very finely honed, dark sense of humour. And I think
to an extent. It wasn't so much the darkness of it. I actually meant, there's always that side as well. But, I mean, everything upsets someone, and that you just have to accept that. Somebody, Matt Lucas sent me a text last night, just a screenshot last night of that he does. If you don't follow Matt Lucas on Twitter, you should do. It's very funny. He every day, he actually doesn't tweet so much anymore, but he posts these very funny, weird videos just with the words "good morning" of just the most extraordinary things that he found on YouTube. But he's taken it off YouTube and just uploads 2 minutes of it. And he posted this really funny video yesterday. So he does one every single day, and he's done them 2 years in advance. He's got them lined up. And he posted this really funny clip yesterday of Rod Hull from, I think it was Pink Windmill, the emu, there you go, Australian connection. But one of the emu shows, I think it was Pink Windmill. Anyway, and somebody comments below going, "This is so inappropriate when you consider what's going on in Kabul." You go what? Where did that come from? It's just people you can never, but you can't please all the people all the time. That's the reality. So, you can please some of the people some of the time, all the people some of the time. Well, but you can't please all the people all the time. But there you go. I was very pleased that I didn't have people saying, well, I don't agree with this or I don't agree with that. People seem to really resonate. And I think as long as I'm sure there are things that people don't agree with. I'm sure. And please don't take this as an invitation to email me with those things. But I think people do appreciate when you speak with honesty, that they appreciate, well, that's your experience, and so be it. That, that's your experience, and
it resonates.
Well, it resonates, but as long as you speak with truth, and I think people can tell that. I think that's it's authenticity, I suppose, is what we like, and as long as you're authentic and you speak with honesty and truth about your experience, then who's anyone else to say otherwise?
I think that's part of the almost unspoken philosophy, is that it's your personal experience, and as long as it doesn't go too extreme on something, you'll be accepted either way. There's many stories that people have put out, and it's a supportive community. So when you do put your thoughts and feelings out there, you'll often be embraced by a big community, and it's kind of shown.
Yeah, well, I was very pleased actually as well. The big charities like MenCap and Sense and Autism Awareness or whatever, and then Adoption UK and what have you. Big organisations tweeted about the show and have got behind the show. So yeah, that's kind of important to me as well.
I think the only time that you'd ever receive anything negative, and it has happened on a couple of occasions, is when there's jealousy for a project you've done. It's as simple as that.
Sometimes people are very quick to assume everyone is fully kind of compass mentis or what they say. It's a bit like when I see sometimes, like, people will sometimes like post videos of someone ranting on a tube late night on a bus, racist things, or sometimes very there was recent, I saw some some guy ranting anti-Semitic things on a bus to someone, and I look at and people are piling on. There's a real pile on. I go, and look at this, it's a disgrace. Got to get this guy arrested and whatever. And I look at these things and I think, we've probably got mental health issues. I mean, I feel sorry for them. I kind of don't.
That's a really good philosophy to have, because like you said, people get so heated.
People get so they get so heated. I think you kind of, there's a lot of people with quite severe mental health issues. I mean, and a lot, and there's free access to social media, and you just have to appreciate that. And if you saw people in the face to face, you'd actually, if they said it to you in the street, you'd be able to see it, but hiding behind, or maybe you wouldn't, but a lot of the time you would, but hiding behind behind like a Twitter profile or whatever, you can't see it.
No, that's right. Well, actually, that leads me to a question, because Little Britain recently came under a lot of criticism for previous things, and it always confused me, because I still to this day, I love the show, I love it to bits, and you see programs like, because obviously it's all fictional characters that people have wrote, and you see shows like It's Only Sunny in Philadelphia, and you see how offensive, or South Park, but you don't see people going back sort of 10, 15 years and going, this is awful, this needs to get cancelled. The people who worked with this show should be sort of slated for what they've done. And it kind of comes back.
It misses the mark, because I was really interested in watching the whole thing with John Cleese and the Germans episode of 40 Towers.
Yeah.
And that coming back up with, it needs to be cancelled, and it's like, no, you've missed the point. The point isn't saying that Germans are bad. The point is the attitude of thinking the Germans are bad is bad.
And the fictional character thinking it, wasn't it? It's not John Cleese who thinks that. It's a fictional character he's created.
Also the thing with the Germans, well, it just in that aspect of it, the thing with that bit and all the don't mention the war and doing the hit the walk and all those things, he's had, if you remember the episode, he's had a bang, he's concussed. That's the whole point, is he's actually concussed. He's had a bang on the head because the moose falls on his head. Look, I got mixed feelings on these things. I think that I have mixed feelings with things like that. I think that on the one hand, I would love to live in an innocent world where you could have that, or there's Only Fools and Horses. There's lots of Only Fools and Horses where they go, like Uncle Albert's going.
Yeah.
And I would love to live in an innocent world where you can just go, well, people talk, that's how he would talk, and that's how people talk. The trouble is that if, you know, a kid goes to school, a little Indian Pakistani boy goes to school the next day, and people are calling him that word because it was on the telly last night. You don't. I don't think as a writer, I was a producer, whatever you, I wouldn't want that on my conscience. And so that's the trouble. And so I suppose you kind of have to factor that in as well, and bear those kind of questions in mind, and just think, well, okay, you know, we don't live in an innocent world, and you have to, you know, act responsibly in that way. So that's the trouble.
Do you think the criticism was warranted, though?
I don't know exactly what the criticism was exactly. I mean, I think all that happened. Well, I mean, certain criticisms. I'm not going to speak. But Matt and David said their own things, so I don't need to say much more on it. But there are certain things that I think they have put it back with certain cuts. I don't know. I mean, I think there are some bits that people go, okay, that feels like of its time, and we wouldn't do that joke now. And they've said, we wouldn't do that now. Whatever. You know, times change. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, sensibilities change, but I don't think that makes a work, you know, good or bad. You can't write shows. I mean, Shakespeare didn't write his plays to be studied in schools 500 years later. I mean, you know, they're written for now, and that's all you can do. You can only write it out. Who knows? I mean, I you know, there's nothing in my 6.5 children that is offensive now, but who's to say in 50 years time, 20 years time, it won't be. So I think that's the trouble. I mean, you know, there, but for the grace of God, I mean, we just you can't know really how things will change.
Just before we finish up, I wanted to ask you about 6.5 children. One thing you do brilliantly with it is you bring your wife in to the whole proceeding, and as a guy listening to it, you sit there thinking you're walking a tightrope, but succeeding brilliantly and not falling there. And as anyone who watches this podcast will know, I constantly end on the wrong side of a joke with my wife. How do you pull that off? How do you manage it so succinctly?
Well, God, I mean, you know, I think I'm the butt of more of the jokes there.
I think that's how you manage it. Yeah.
I think that's the thing, yeah. And God, writing the show, I did kind of feel a slight imposter syndrome, I suppose, at times, because of thinking, you know, I'm talking about, I suppose that's why as well I want to talk about other aspects, because if you're just talking about the workload of having a large family, well, I'm aware that my wife is doing a lot more work than me. And I think I try and kind of make that point. And because I do have that imposter syndrome. And in fact, I mentioned right at the start of episode 1 how, and this is true, I've spent long times away when I've been on tour and stuff. And I've done 2 off-Broadway shows. So I was away in America for periods. So, you know, any jokes really are more at my expense than her expense. So, but then she also looks at the scripts, and I'm sure she would tell me if she wasn't happy with something.
Yeah. But hey, it's a genius thing, and I need to study it in much more detail to avoid making the mistakes I make. Ashley, it has been fantastic having you this week.
Real pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. If you guys want to check out Ashley's show, 6.5 Children, the links will be in the description. Do check it out. It's on BBC Sounds. It is absolutely brilliant. If you want to know what it's like being a parent of special educational needs kids or disabled kids in any way, it is enlightening without being a drudge. It is just brilliantly witty and just so well done. Chris, I want to thank you as always.
Yep, thank you, mate.
And a huge thanks again to Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. It's been brilliant.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Please do hit like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so that you know there's new content coming up. Do check out the description. There will be loads of links in there to all of Ashley's stuff. And we will see you again on the next episode.